All right, everyone. It's the weekend recap, Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail or fails, the meme review, software releases, hardware releases, the websites by plebes or plebs. Drop us a like, subscribe. All right, we're going to the numbers. Let's take a look at them.
Number time.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 698,184. The Bitcoin price, 49,020. Chain rewrite days, 898. Total public Lightning capacity, 2,369.57. Sats per dollar, 2040. And blocks to the halvening, 141,816. I think that's another all-time high there on the
It is.
the public Lightning capacity.
It's flying. It's literally
back.
flying. Remember when it was stuck at 1,000 for the longest time? For a very long time, it was just frozen in time at 1,000. And now the lightning gods are like... mad sound effects, so it's like dramatic.
There's going to be liquidity. That's what it is. There shall be liquidity.
Shall be liquidity. How much is that in our favorite shitcoin, the dollar? How much is that?
Favorite shitcoin, the dollar, huh?
Yeah.
How much is that?
Yeah.
What is that? 2,369.57 BTC. All right, let's do some fuzzy math. It looks like we've got $116,156,321.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of fiat right there.
It's a lot of caca. But, you know, yeah, it seems like a lot of money, but for a global network, it's not that much money.
No, it's not. It isn't, you know. It's just, I mean, but look, again, it's also in its infancy, and anybody who uses Lightning, right? I think, like we said, like I've said in the past, I think that, you know, Strike offers the most seamless experience, right? But we've explained there's a trade-off to that. It's custodial, right? You're not connecting to your own node, right? You're connecting to whatever pool he's Elon Strike is having you connect to. But otherwise, you have your node. And if you have your node, it is a pretty seamless experience, but you're still setting up a node, you know? So it's a matter of trade-offs. It's a matter of preferences. It's a matter of what you're comfortable with, at what stage you're at, you know? Maybe you're not ready to set up your own node yet, but now there's really, I think, like almost no excuse anymore. You know, like it should be, I think like almost anybody could follow those instructions.
So I always hear people, you know, because you guys know, I'm not a Lightning guy yet, right? I'm waiting for the seamless experience. I know that Phil hates that word, but so I always hear people on Twitter saying, I need to balance my channel. What does that mean?
Yeah. So essentially what happens is that like when you open up a channel, right, you're opening up a channel to somebody else's node, which means you're providing inbound liquidity to their node. Okay. So that's not liquidity going back to your node. So essentially what happens is that this other person, right, let's say you and I connect, this other person will then open up a channel, you know, back to you. And now that is inbound liquidity to you. Okay. So let's say you set up a channel with 500,000 sats going to me, and I set up a channel with 500,000 sats going to you. Okay. The maximum that you can receive through that is still 500,000 sats, because that is what is inbound to you. Gotcha. Okay. Anyways, so the balancing of the channel happens when you like essentially have like you like one direction is way out of whack with the other one, right? So let's say you've got like 10,000 satoshis outbound to me, but then inbound you have like, you know, 600,000 sats. So, you know, like you need more outbound liquidity to be able to send, you know, so stuff like that.
So do you just top it off, or do you have to close the channel, and how does that work?
So that's a great question. Like there's different ways that I haven't used yet. Like there's like, I know that there's a method of there's loop in and loop out, but there's another way to balance channels that I think it was Tyler Durden on Telegram. One of the guys from, I think he was originally from the Raspy Blitz group that I started talking with him. And I think he's in our Simply Bitcoin group. And he showed me a different way to set up balanced channels. But yeah, to my knowledge, I only know the looping in and looping out. If somebody knows another method, that would be great. But I've never even actually used that method because I always understood that I needed like another node to do this with. Anyways.
It's fascinating.
Still,
dude.
you see what I'm saying though? Like, do you see what I'm saying? It's like, don't get me wrong. Sure, this is fine, right? For us, like, to sit here and tinker and do all that stuff. And it's great for, people like, let's say, even organizations that want to get into accepting lightning payments and stuff like that. Like, that's fantastic stuff. But I still think the end user experience, like, really? Okay. And I know that it's like, it'll hurt any hardcore Bitcoiner because it even hurts me to say it. But the experience will be either you don't have to balance them manually at all. They just automatically rebalance and reshuffle on their own, either on a specified period of time or something like that. Or you have a button that you click, rebalance all channels, and it does some magic and does it for you. You know what I mean? Like, realistically, that's the type of solution that should happen if you want more people to have that.
It's fascinating.
To have that functionality,
It's fascinating, dude. It reminds me of, and I wasn't really conscious, I was just a kid, but actually like a baby. But it reminds me of what I've read of the early internet days, like the 1990s, right? There's that really famous Bill Gates video where he's explaining it to David Letterman. He's kind of explaining what the internet is, right? So it kind of reminds me of those days, like this technology is going to change the world, but that seamlessness is not quite there yet, So it's super fascinating. I'm waiting for that seamlessness, Phil. Seamless.
I was building computers back when you had to actually sit there and pull all the little jumpers and everything like that, and you had to have the proper IRQs, you actually had to go in Windows and specify the interrupt requests so that way your sound card and your video card didn't screw each other over or something, or your serial port and your your printer port didn't screw each other over. Yes, at that point in time anybody could look at this and say there is not a chance this is taking over the world. Okay? Look at where we are today. So that's why it's like, it's like, I don't write Lightning off. I think it's the fact that we've come as far as we have in as short a period as we have, I think is absolutely remarkable. So it's going to be amazing to see where Lightning is in 3 years from now.
Yeah, man, it was impossible to really conceptualize that your computer was going to turn into this essentially. And this thing is, 10 to 100 times more powerful than any computer you had in the 90s. And it's handheld. It's only used by fingers, and you can connect with anybody at any time like this. It's impossible to conceptualize. And I suspect, I really would put my money on it, that Lightning is going to follow that type of evolutionary technological path. If that makes any sense, I'm just pulling words.
No, it does. No, it does. Man, I had a flip. I had a flip phone, and I remember I had one of the first ones with a browser on it. Okay, and I remember going to browse the internet on my flip phone, and it was awful. And I was like, this is such a waste of time and technology. No one is ever going to browse anything from a phone.
And then boom.
And look.
Boom. Just dead wrong, man, just dead wrong, because again, not looking correctly at the technology, not just essentially looking at where we are, not understanding where it's going, Absolutely. What's that quote? It's like, no one could stop an idea whose time has come, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And Bitcoin and Lightning, right? Time has come. Super bullish, but anyways, Phil, it's time for it.
The daily fail. All right, so look, the last fail that we did had to do with NFTs, and this is kind of going. We're going to have multiple fails, but this is just a short, quick one that we were called to today by Corn DeLorean. Shout out to you, bud. Let's take a look at this. Let's run through this situation and see if we can figure this out together. This is from Big Magic Deo. If you spent 10 ETH on a JPEG, then the person who sold you that JPEG will get 10 ETH from you, and you will get a JPEG worth 10 ETH. And now you two got 20 ETH together. No, that's not how that works at all. You don't have 20 ETH together at all in any way, shape, or form.
Remember how I said...
You still have 10 ETH and a JPEG.
Remember how I said shitcoiners are communists?
I mean, are you kidding me?
It's a very good example.
How do you even come up with that? What kind of shit is that?
What's that lady that
at WX blockchain? Oh, at Bitcoin Magazine.
Oh,
really?
I'm sure. Why did she get let go?
You know that math doesn't work, right? What do you mean? Like, no, it doesn't work. Okay.
It reminds me of what's that lady that both blocked us, Phil?
Francis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same math. Same math.
I mean, are you kidding me? Really? No, you still just have 10 ETH in a JPEG. Anyway, so this was funny and just absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe, I had to comment on our part and say how stupid that was. Anyways, moving on. Ethereum is experiencing a chain split. Okay, we're going to read this tweet from Lynn. Ultrasound money should have more than just inflation-deflation metrics. It also needs to be secure. Look at that. If ETH nodes were forced to update due to a security problem, then who is really in control of the network? The developers or the node operators? It's a very good question. Very good question. Anyways, let's dive into what happened. All right? Keeping that in mind, right? Because they always want to tell you how it's ultrasound money, but at the end of the day, we always say the same thing, which they still can't dispute. There is no hard cap. There's no accurate way to figure out circulating supply or total supply. There's a 70% pre-mine. There's an Ethereum foundation. I mean, we just keep adding to the list of reasons why this is not ultrasound money in any way, shape, or form. Anyways, this is just now a little bit more to that, right? So let's dive into what happened here. A bug affecting older versions of a major Ethereum client is causing those nodes to split from the main network. This affects around 54% of Ethereum nodes. I'm glad I'm not trying to store my value there. The bug impacts older versions of Geth clients. These make up nearly 75% of all Ethereum nodes, and 73% of Geth clients are still running older versions. That's how many of them are liable to this hack. Anyways, this means that around 54% of Ethereum nodes are running with a major infrastructure bug. This could lead to double spend attacks where cryptocurrency is spent, but then the transaction is overwritten by the alternative chain. Yeah. The bug, which has the potential to impact other EVM compatible chains, has also been exploited on Binance Smart Chain because it's all written with the same crap. Okay? Nobody's checking this. Oh, I'm sorry, they claim, that they've got auditors, but we've already proven that auditors don't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Regarding nodes running the older versions of Geth, they are effectively unable to access the main network. I mean, so all of a sudden, if you're running an older client and and you're holding your ETH there, like, what happens? Is that just gone? Well, I mean, it's not just gone, but it's effectively, it can't really do anything. Okay. Ethereum core developer Tim Bako weighed in, saying that 3 mining pools appear to have been mining on the wrong version of Geth. This is why, you got it. When you write stuff, it cannot be move fast and break things. Mm-hmm. You cannot move fast and break things with people's value. Yes, it's fun to go to the circus. It's fun to watch people, spin around in the sky and do all kinds of funny things, right? We see the clowns come out, we laugh. It's great. But that's not where we want to store our value, right? Anyways, I did dig up this video. I forget who dropped this in for us, but shout out to you.
I did.
Oh, great. See, look at that. I don't even remember that you dropped it in. So perfect. So we're just going to listen closely to this video and just remember what happened with the ETH hard fork.
You want the protocol to be maximally simple because simplifying the protocol just improves consensus security. So, the more consensus code you have in the protocol rules, the more likely it is you'll have issues like 2 different implementations like not being in sync with each other, leading to the blockchain just randomly splitting in half.
So that's exactly what happened.
But I don't understand something though. He says one thing, but the point is that these exploits don't happen because it's simple. It happens because it's complicated and it's spaghetti. So I just don't get it. Like, is that like 2 people talking at the same time or something?
I told you they sound like communists. I keep telling you this, and I'm going to keep nailing it home, dude. That's what they do. They tell you one thing, then they do the other. I'm telling you, dude. It's all like, it's all a scam. It's all.
But in the same 20 seconds, Nico.
Bro.
In the same 20 seconds, man.
Man. Dude, you should have seen You should have seen Chavez, bro, the old leader of Venezuela. You know, he would say one thing and then he would tell you another thing on the other hand. It reminds me, I'm not saying like, you know, economically they believe in the same system. I'm just saying that the similarities are striking, right? It's just mind blowing. And another thing, dude, like, look, first of all, Bitcoin is backwards compatible, right? So you could run an old version of Bitcoin Core and you could still interact with the Bitcoin network, right? That's just how it functions, right? So you'd never find yourself in this position where you would have to be forcefully have to update your software in order to run Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin designed in that way? Because eventually, right, a government is going to put pressure on the Ethereum Foundation, right, to essentially, you know, like, if you don't update your code, if you don't update your this, we're just, you know, we're going to hold your value hostage until you essentially update the software that we like, right? So it's like, this is another example of Ethereum being fragile, right? Where Bitcoin, if you contrast it, it's anti-fragile, right? These things can't happen in Bitcoin the way that you're seeing them happen in Ethereum, man. It's just such a total clusterfuck. We've been saying this for months, dude. Like, this is one of the things that happens, right, when, you know, their nodes are so resource heavy, right, that the majority of the populace can't run them, right? You have to outsource, you know, the nodes being run. And this is what happens, dude. Like, this type of things happen. The Ethereum Foundation has total and utter, someone's at the door, total and utter control of, you know, essentially of the network, dude. We saw when Vitalik was like, oh, we want to change the mining protocol. We want to, you know, do this, right? One of the main innovations of Bitcoin is separating the money from state. Who runs the state? A bunch of people, right? So you want to put the monetary policy in the hands of math, right? I know the monetary policy of Bitcoin. I know that. So if I'm a fund manager, right, coming from the legacy system, where am I going to put my value? Right? Am I going to put it in something predictable, right? It's something that I know isn't going to change? Or am I going to put it into the hands of, you know, some dude that wears, you know, a unicorn on his shirt and he's the one in charge of the monetary policy? So you're essentially replacing the old dudes at the Fed, Powell, with Vitalik, right? The issue is humans, right? When humans interact with the monetary policy, they get corrupted. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is just an example of that, man. And I'm telling you, dude, if the world's monetary system ran on Ethereum, it would be, the clusterfuck would be just as much as it is today, right? The innovation of Bitcoin is you take humans out of the element. It's not even in the thing. Humans don't interact with the monetary policy, right? That is what Bitcoin does, right? And here's just another example of Ethereum being centralized garbage. Like, when we say that, we actually mean it. And this is just a great example, man. And I'm telling you, Phil, this is going to happen again.
You know what? All I could think about is, I'm not so worried about the unicorns on his shirt. I'm more worried about the unicorns in his head. Because that's the problem. He comes up with this ridiculous crap. And, like, people think, like, you know, people think this is like gospel, you know?
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, look, it's nuts.
You want to hear something crazy? He creates a utopia in his head, right? And he gets other people to believe in it. What does that sound like to you? Again, right? There's, you know, maybe the connections are there, but I see them. It's striking. You know, maybe I just have PTSD or something. Anyways, great fail, Phil. But it's time for it.
The Daily Meme Review, sponsored by
Citadel 21. All right, Phil. I got 2 memes for us to review, and check this out. They're different memes because they're memes in responses to essentially our enemies, right? The central bankers, the globalists, the elites, the financial elites, all of them, all of the above. This was a response to the IMF, you know. I'll get to it in the news, but Balls and Bitcoin, love that name. Definitely a fellow pleb. Bitcoin don't care, no IMFers. IMF blabbering, Bitcoin don't give a shit. Absolutely, Honey Badger doesn't give 2 Fs. And last but not least, we got Crypto Bastardo. Check out this. Bitcoin has no value, and he put a Yahoo article, which we're gonna get to. And it's looking, yeah. Amazing memes, simple, but I feel like they have something to do with the news, so I wanted to review them. And this is like a good example of why memes are so effective, right? You put that in the meme, right? You have the IMF, like trying to strong arm saying like, you can't have private issued currencies. And then you just put a meme, bro, and it makes them look like idiots, right? Because they don't have solid money. It's all a lie. And because of that, I'm going to give this excellent score of Citadel 21, Volume 7. This is the one I wrote in. So, yeah, I wanted to give it a special score. If you guys want to get yourself a copy, go to citadel21.com. Anyways, Phil, what are you going to give it?
Man, those were two great memes. I love what people have done with that school with the bus and the train. I totally love the bus and train ones. So applicable to so many different things. You know what? Solid memes. They're gonna get a solid score. Lactase enzyme pills.
Ooh, dude, man, lactase enzyme pills.
That's right, bro.
And a Citadel 21 magazine. So many possibilities, so little time. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by
Crypto Cloaks.
All right, guys, remember how I tell you this all the time. We are currently in an information war. And information wars are not like kinetic wars. It's more a war over your mind. And that's essentially what we're going through right now. And, the Bitcoiners have the truth on their side. And we got the central bankers, that are essentially freaking out using the legacy, mainstream propaganda media to try to, they're freaking out. And they're freaking out. Why? Because Bitcoin is about to become legal tender in El Salvador, right? And, they're literally short-circuiting. And, of course, you can't stop the signal. They know that. We know that, right? But that doesn't mean they're not going to try. Anyways, let's check out some of their panic attacks from this weekend. We got a post by the IMF. Privately issued crypto assets like Bitcoin come with substantial risks. Sorry, I can't take it seriously. Making them equivalent to a national currency is an inadvisable shortcut. Who the F cares what the IMF thinks is advisable or not? This seems like a threat to me, dude.
Privately issued crypto asset? That was publicly issued. That was issued randomly. That was like the fairest distribution ever. The only, think about it. Each of their currencies is privately issued.
They're projecting, Phil.
No, I know they're projecting, but it's just such psychotic crap. Come on, no one is taking you seriously.
No, and you're absolutely right, because they got ratioed as F, so they got 476 likes and they actually got 1,500 comments from the Bitcoiners. Just scroll through. All you got privately issued, you're peddling horse and buggy. It just goes on. It's just Bitcoiners spitting the truth. And this is what I mean by the information war. This is the front line. This is the front line. And you fight this war by leaving a comment, by liking, right? Because when people see this tweet from the IMF, right, and the blue verified checkmark, thank you, Jack Dorsey, they're going to look, why is it ratioed? They're going to go to the comments and they're going to see a bunch of Bitcoiners, essentially presenting the counter narrative, right? And the counter narrative is the truth, right? These guys want you to be enslaved. And that's why they're literally saying privately issued crypto assets. In reality, they don't even want to call it cryptocurrency, call it crypto assets, right? They're scared, bro. But it's fascinating because do you know how the Fed issues? I know how Bitcoin is issued. I know that you have to, anyone could, spend, buy a miner, spend spend the necessary amount of electricity that you have to, pay for the miner, all that stuff. And then you get yourself some Bitcoin. Everyone could do that. You don't need a license. You don't need a tie. You don't need a title. You don't need a council, right? Anyone could do that, right? So it's just insincere. They're lying. And the reason they're lying is because they're scared. But it doesn't stop at just here, Phil. Check this out. This article from The Economist. Democracy is quickly eroding in Central America. Now, it's really interesting because this is what the article says, but if you look at their Twitter promotion, look at what it says, Phil. President Nayib Bukele, a 40-year-old populist, is threatening the fragile democracy that was built up in El Salvador over 30 years of peace, right? And then you click at the article. Reuters did something very similar where they put a picture of Nayib Bukele and they put corruption, but you click at the article and it really has nothing to do with him in specifically, they make it more broad. Now, it's fascinating because they put El Salvador and Honduras, right? What's happening in Honduras? Look, Bitcoin fever reaches Honduras with first Bitcoin and shitcoin ATM, right? Again, there's no coincidences, but there's also no conspiracies. What is happening here is very simple. They are afraid. They are scared, right? This is panic mode, right? They're losing their grasp. They know that Bitcoin is a better alternative, right? And they're going to try whatever in their power, right, to stop this happening in El Salvador. They're going to use all the mainstream media propaganda arm. They're going to use political pressure, right? We already had a couple tweets from Nayib Bukele saying United Fruit Company, which is this neo-colonial company that the United States had in Central America to take advantage of those countries, right? So why is he tweeting that? Very cryptic, but he's telling us what's happening here. There's obvious pressure. We had an article from Steve Hanke, the Panky, right? Essentially threatening, using that threatening language. And if you look at the IMF tweet, right, if we circle back to it, it's also very threatening, dude. It's like privately issued crypto assets like Bitcoin come with substantial risk. Making them equivalent to a national currency is an inadvisable shortcut. Like, that's a threat. I'm reading that. That's a threat. You're a country, right? And you see this and you're like, wow, I don't want, the FATFA and the IMF and the World Bank and all those people after me. It's they're not playing fair. They're not playing fair at all. Phil, what were you going to say?
So Nico, when do we get blamed? When do we get blamed for the soon to happen economic crisis? Right?
Man.
Because don't get me wrong, they will have nothing left. They will have absolutely nothing left. And the only thing that they'll be able to do is try to pull the wool over everyone's eyes and make them think that somehow the economic problems are caused by Bitcoin.
They just don't have any moral standing.
That's coming.
They don't have. I know it's coming, but the moral, they've lost their moral standing, right? We've been pitched here in America, at least, and in some Western European countries. We spent 20 years in Afghanistan building a democracy, right? As soon as we pulled out, what happened? So it's like, and we just left a bunch of, military fiat equipment over there as well, conveniently for them. So it's like, it's all lies. We know they're not telling the truth. Maybe perhaps 20 years ago, if they had this argument, if the mainstream media was saying these things, this is dangerous, this is fragile democracies, maybe we would believe them. But the fact that they've lied to us for so long, when you see stuff like that, all it tells me is that they're scared. There's not telling me anything else, right? But it's not also, the Western central banks. China is also having a panic attack as well, right? Check out this article from Yahoo. Bitcoin has no value. Mind you, Bitcoin's sitting at 49K. It's been the best performing asset of the last 10 years. And it's been the fastest asset to get to $1 trillion. And it has no CEO. It has no employees. And it was still the fastest, right? So look, again, but they want you to know, they want you to believe that their SDRs, right, have value, which are worthless garbage, right? They make them, they come out of thin air, right? But Bitcoin, right, apparently, that actually needs proof of work to be created. Apparently that doesn't have any value, right? But of course, the free market is saying otherwise. Check out the article. Bitcoin has no value. People's Bank of China official announces further crackdown. Of course, it's not going to work. But according to a report by a local news outlet, People's Daily Online, Yoping said that Bitcoin and shitcoins are purely speculative assets, and fiat is not, apparently. He also advised the public to increase its risk awareness and stay away from the Bitcoin and shitcoin market to protect their It's like, man, it's opposite speak, bro. The IMF is projecting. These people are projecting as well. It's absolutely nuts. I can't even read the rest of the article because I'm gonna blow up. But they're accusing Bitcoin of what it is they're guilty of themselves. Inflation is what's actually risky. Like in the US, it's estimated as 10 to 15% this year alone, right? So what's more risky? right? Having your money in Bitcoin, yes, it could be volatile, but look, I'll tell you something. If you've stored your value in Bitcoin and you've held it on to at least 4 years, no one has ever lost a dime. Now, could you say the same thing about fiat if you hold it for 4 years? No, you're losing value. So this is just projection. This is fear from the central bankers. This is fear from the financial elites. And this shows me, Phil, that we are winning this information war. But I'm also warning you guys that, man, like a caged animal or like an animal that gets pushed into a corner, right? The more threatened their system feels, the more vicious they're going to react, right? This is just a taste of what's to come. And man, this is gonna, and I've been saying this, their rhetoric is gonna continue increasing and intensifying as soon as, you know, Bitcoin becomes legal tender in El Salvador and other countries are inevitably gonna follow suit. We haven't seen nothing yet. Phil?
Bitcoin has no value, right? So when we lost that 50% hash rate and it just kept on ticking like nothing happened, I think that was very valuable. I think that moment alone kind of helped show, at least to the rest of the world, exactly, how valuable Bitcoin can be. It can't be stopped by a nation state. That should make that should really, like for me anyways, that was like a huge piece where I'm like, okay, that's massive. Like we can withstand that and keep going. Not that I had any doubt anyways, but it was beautiful to actually see it happen in real time, right?
Absolutely, because
it was insane.
The incentive model works, and the fiat incentive model is fundamentally broken, right? But anyways, to add to what Phil was saying, right? This is where the ban happened. This is where the hash rate started to plummet, and all by itself, without any CEO, any council, any Vitalik, right?
Nope.
The hash rate just started to continue going up. Why? Because the incentive model works, right? You're incentivized to mine. The hash rate goes down, the difficulty goes down. All of a sudden, that S9, right, that was essentially a paperweight 2 months ago, starts becoming a very profitable miner again, right? So, it's so fascinating. A really good point, Phil.
Nico, are you saying that there was no Bitcoin Foundation that dumped on the bag holders to keep the lights on? I don't even know how that's possible. Nothing can work without that.
You're right.
I just don't get it.
We have to be wrong.
Come on, like every shitcoiner will tell you, well, of course they're dumping, of course they're selling it on the market. How else are you going to pay the devs?
Man, it's so ridiculous, man. But these shitcoiners, these fiat central bankers, all of them, they're just batshit. And I feel like they've always been batshit, but like Bitcoin just opened up our eyes, and it's like, holy crap, these people are insane, right? And yeah, man. But listen, the good news is that I'm going to take Jack Mahler's line, right? Is that open systems always be closed systems. All shitcoins, including fiat, are intranets, and Bitcoin is the internet. See how that ended up. But Phil, there was a software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. All right, we've got something that's not too complicated. It's the simple Bitcoin wallet version 2.0.5 that was released. It's down below in the show notes. Check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was the weekend recap. If you enjoyed the episode, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the catastrophic fails from the ETH heads, the fiat economists, the central bankers, all the above, and the Bitcoin news from the perspective, definitely consider subscribing. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.